All right. Welcome, everyone. Today is February 26th, 2026. Session is going to be recorded, so if you're watching it in the future, hello from the past. If you're here now, we're here to present two property opportunity notices with the City of Nanaimo, one at 474 Pine Street and the other at 6 Commercial Street. So to present the info session here, we've got BC Builds and BC Housing with myself, Ryan Chu, Ali Butcher, and Annie Wang, as well as a few others that are going to help answer some questions at the end of the meeting. And from the City of Nanaimo, we've got Nancy Skills, who will also be presenting after we go through the agenda here, which is going to incorporate first a quick overview of BC Builds, then the property opportunity notice, how it's going to be evaluated, and then finally, we're going to turn it over to the city to present the two specific opportunities. At the end, we're going to have a Q&A, so we're going to collect all the questions that are coming up there. And we're also going to have questions open up to March 10th, 2026, where we're going to collect all the questions, put all the answers, and post them with an addendum with all the responses on the Housing Development Opportunities website. So to get started with a quick overview of BC Builds, this is to help understand the program that we have and how to respond to the opportunity. But in overall, BC Builds is a housing program delivered by BC Housing, and the whole intention is to speed up delivery of new homes for middle-income households throughout the province. If you're familiar with BC Housing, traditionally the focus is from the left-hand side of the housing spectrum all the way up to about 3/4 to the right. And with BC Builds, our main focus goes from halfway from the middle to the right end of the spectrum. So we do a lot of focus on affordable and up to market rental housing. So how does BC Builds work? We've got various different ways that we work, but the one that we're going to focus on today is through this Housing Development Opportunities platform. So on the BC Builds website, we've got a section here that we post specific opportunities with partners where we seek proposals for the sites. And all of these sites will either have the land fully zoned or rezoning will have started, so that reduces the risk of and uncertainty of what can be developed and hopefully also expedites timing. This is what the website looks like when we have opportunities up. Just a quick review of the different locations, different sites, where to find the materials, and I guess more information about these specific opportunities. So if you've seen the housing development opportunities in the past, this one is slightly different. So in the past, we've had grants allocated to projects, and in this case, we're looking at financing only. So we're looking to have development opportunities where we seek developers that have plans to find owner-operators and long-term lease the property. And so there isn't a specific formula for how this is going to work. We're going to look for proponents to submit proposals for projects with different solutions, different partnerships, different ways to accommodate housing within these sites. From the BC Builds side, we provide interim construction financing for these developments. And so these are the rates that we use here for underwriting. On the left-hand side, we have interest rates for construction. And on the right-hand side, we use the underwriting takeout assumptions for how we size the loans. And so for these, we have a focus on DCRs for residential components to be at minimum 1.1 and 1.3 for commercial, with amortization up to 35 years. So we've done quite a few BC Builds projects already, and we've got a little bit of a map here to show where we've done projects. These aren't all inclusive, but we just want to showcase that we don't have specific target areas. So BC Builds, we work across the entire province. A couple of examples of sites that we've already done is one here in Sun Peaks, where we had a housing development opportunity posted, and right now it's in construction. It's well underway. So the process worked, timing is expedited for approvals, construction start, financing, everything in line. We've also got other types of projects within BC Builds where they're not through the housing development opportunities, but just financing only. So that is the main focus of what BC Builds does as a program, to provide construction financing in various forms. So this is an example of a project where a developer had come with a proposal to BC Housing for financing, no extra requirements attached, just financing, no grants. And if the performer works, we take a look and ensure that the project is safe and it's within the framework requirements. So the BC Builds difference is that our main, I guess, goal with projects that we take on is to be able to start construction within 12 to 18 months of a proposal coming in. And so what we do here is we focus a lot on things on the left-hand side of this, I guess we call it a rocket ship. So once we have a project with identified land, the feasibility is in place, we've got approvals, we've got financing, we put a heavy focus on partnerships to be able to bring everybody on board from the municipality, the development team, consultants, BC Builds, and we get everybody to join these, what we call PAC meetings, project acceleration committees, where we align goals to make sure that every party is there with a vested interest to see the development go through. And so you're not doing developments by yourself and applying to BC Builds for financing and then applying to the municipality for municipal approvals. We're all doing all of those activities together so that we have, I guess, a tight leash on what we're trying to accomplish. And that's just the main quick overview of BC Builds and how they work. So we'll turn it over now to take a quick look at the property opportunity notice to see how we evaluate housing development opportunities. If you've taken a look at the project-specific details in the property opportunity notice, on page 12, we've got the evaluation criteria. And what we look for in submissions is outlined here. So financial viability, it's got the heaviest weighted score at 30. And that's because we look at projects here with no grants. So there's I guess, a big focus to make sure that projects are financially viable. They do underwrite. They don't require subsidies or grants or have any equity gaps. We want to make sure that projects can stand on their own 2 feet. And with that, the next weighted score is 20, and that's for the project development team to make sure that they've got the experience and capacity to deliver the development. They've got a track record. They've got, I guess, a proven ability to be able to take on this new project. Financial strength is also related to financial viability, and that's to make sure that the proponent that's going to take on this project is capable of taking on the debt associated with the budget. And we want to make sure that we have strong proponents that can deliver the projects. Technical viability and proposed development, that's just to ensure that the form of development is going to fit within what works in zoning. It's what the municipality is looking for, and it's a good fit for the community. And then, of course, because we have a big goal of getting projects delivered within 12 to 18 months, there's an accelerated development construction timeline, score of 10 points here, just to make sure that we're putting together an appropriate schedule for what we're looking to deliver in this project. Yeah, that's the quick overview of the evaluation criteria. And I guess now we'll turn it over to the fun stuff with Nancy Skills to talk about the opportunities.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and joining. We're really excited about this opportunity. So first, I would like to recognize that I'm presenting on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation. I'm joined today on the call with my colleagues, Jeremy Holm, the Director of Planning and Development, Lania Rowett, the Manager of Current Planning, Dale Burgos, the Manager of Corporate Communications and Community Relations, and Warren Mann, who's part of our team as a property agent. We're all going to be collectively working with you all on this exciting opportunity. Just some quick facts about Nanaimo for those who are not from here or don't have some regional context. Nanaimo is the second largest urban center on Vancouver Island and the 5th largest in British Columbia. The city's central location makes it a natural transportation and distribution hub for all of Vancouver Island. Our population is 112,672 persons. And although the population is around this number, the region welcomes over 172,000 people on a daily basis who utilize shopping, recreation facilities, and just enjoy the natural beauty of Nanaimo. Our median age is 43.8 and the average family size is 2.3, with a median household income of 85.7. And the city supports around 63,400 jobs. The city offers a well-trained, stable, and educated workforce. and Vancouver Island University graduates from various disciplines provide a constant stream of new employees for area companies. These indicators highlight a growing city and a demand for attainable housing. Quick housing snapshot and needs. This slide will highlight some of the current housing needs shaping our approach. Like many BC communities, Nanaimo is experiencing demand for housing across all income levels. In Nanaimo, 33% or 33.3% of our population are renters, whereas the provincial average is 32.8. We, under a ministerial order, under the Housing Supply Act, they set annual housing targets, and the city exceeded housing targets for all categories, for one-bedroom studios and below market housing. This forms an important backdrop to why both available sites, Commercial and Pine Street, represent excellent opportunity. To provide some context about the location of these properties, both sites are located in well-connected neighborhoods with excellent amenities. Nearby is Vancouver Island University and the Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. The city encompasses 2,300 acres of parkland, and as mentioned before, it's a central hub for shopping options, Woodgrove Mall, retail providers. You've got Costco, Canadian Tire, Walmart. There's a range of transportation options to get to these locations from our airport, seaplanes, helijets, BC ferries. Hullo Ferry connects you to downtown Vancouver very quickly. BC Transit and the Regional District of Nanaimo are also planning to a new bus location just south of 6 Commercial Street. Nanaimo is also home to over 6,400 businesses and is growing. Businesses choose to locate in Nanaimo because of the cost efficiencies, exceptional technology, and easy access to world markets. Nanaimo's downtown has seen a lot of change in the past few years. We've seen improvements to Commercial Street. There's new buildings that have gone up. Next to Commercial Street, we have the Soundworks property, which is going to come online soon. Downtown has the Nanaimo Conference Center, Port Theatre, casino, many restaurants, and our beautiful Maffio Sutton Water Park. This strong mix provides a wide range of potential residential and mixed-use development. So moving on to 6 Commercial Street.
The future of this property here at 6 Commercial Street has been a hot topic since a fire ravaged the former building. Known as the Gene Burns Law, this central downtown property has a rich history and is ready for the next chapter in its story. The City of Nanaimo is teaming up with BC Builds to find a visionary developer and long-term housing partner. The goal? To bring a landmark mixed-use rental project to life right here in the heart of downtown Nanaimo. This city-owned site is in a truly standout location. It offers great visibility and comes with downtown 4 zoning, allowing for up to 6 stories, including ground floor commercial space. The site is surrounded by a revitalized commercial street, a growing, vibrant neighborhood, and a future transit exchange. This isn't just another development opportunity, it's a chance to create something lasting, something meaningful, something that becomes a part of Nanaimo's story. For more information, or to submit a proposal, visit the Housing Development Opportunities page at bcbuildshomes.ca or reach out to us at realestate@nanaimo.ca.
So just a few, I'll just go over some of the site characteristics with 6 Commercial Street. As noted, it's a 0.25 acre site, anticipated up to 6 stories of development. Ideally, we're looking for commercial to be located on the ground floor with the residential above. It's in a prime vacant downtown parcel. Some of the opportunities is that it would apply, the downtown tax exemption would apply to it. There are constraints, obviously, with the site, the triangular site shape of it. There's highway access controls and some remediation that will need to be considered as part of the redevelopment. This depicts a visual of the Commercial Street site and illustrates some adjacent uses. It'll give you sort of a sense of the context within the revitalized Commercial Street corridor. With the transit exchange being planned just to the south of Commercial Street, it's anticipated that we would be looking to have a walkway connection adjacent to China Steps within the property that could connect Commercial Street to Terminal Avenue. I'm just going to go through both of the properties, and then at the very end we can have some questions. So I'm just going to move on now to Pine Street.
Nanaimo is a growing city full of opportunity. There's a very real need for new and affordable quality rental housing. One development opportunity sits right here at 474 Pine Street. The City of Nanaimo is working with BC Builds to find a developer and long-term housing owner-operator to bring a new rental housing project to this vacant 0.66 acre site. The property is city-owned and sits at the edge of the Old City neighborhood. It's well connected and close to shopping, Vancouver Island University, and downtown Nanaimo. The lot is zoned R15, Old City Medium Density Residential, which allows for the development of small-scale multifamily homes that are consistent with the historical architectural style of the area. To learn more or to submit a proposal, visit the Housing Development Opportunities page at bcbuildshomes.ca or contact the city at realestate@nanaimo.ca.
Again, just some high-level site characteristics of the property. The property is 2,680 square meters. Again, it's permitted zone, it's R15 zoning. One of the great things, as mentioned in the video, is the location to the downtown, to the Old City Quarter, to shopping, to our 3rd Street sports zones, which is our Nanaimo Aquatic Center, the Roxham Stadium, Rotary Bowl, Q Stadium. There is a riparian area located within the property, but based on different environmental reports and things that we've seen, we anticipate that you would build towards Pine Street and it would be not within the riparian area. Just to wrap it up, any additional information, here's my contact information, and also the property opportunity notice will be available on the Housing Development Opportunity site with the BC Builds. We're happy to answer any questions or open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much. I had a few questions for Homes BC. And the first one is you want market housing, and I understand you're willing to accept 20% less than the average or mean rental rates for the size and type of unit. Is that correct?
Within BC Builds, we don't have any additional affordability criteria. So if you're wanting to propose full market or near market, that's okay with us. There's no requirement for 20% below market.
I was also thinking some projects that I've done under the Christy Clark IHI program, you may recall that, there were just capital grants, and the market rates charged were low into market, basically about 90% of average or mean market rent. And we realized that if there was no operating subsidy and the income of the households met the SAFER criteria, that they could apply for SAFER and in effect have a rent geared to income unit at 30% of their gross before tax income. Would this be possible here to consider that, or?
That would be outside of the BC Builds program. So we're not a subsidy type of program. So we have projects that have, I guess, rentals that are geared more towards low end of market to near market. That's good for us. We just don't have any grants or subsidies that are going to be able to add on to the project.
No, well, the SAFER program, you may recall, I think W.A.C. Bennett introduced it way back in the 60s. But anyway, The other questions I had was with regards to the type of assistance and support BC Builds was going to provide the development team. Do you provide PDF as in some of the other BC housing programs?
It is possible. So if we have a nonprofit partner, we can look at providing pre-development funding. It is through an application, so it's not guaranteed. And if the
No.
proponent is a for-profit entity, then we don't have PDF available.
Aha, good to know. So it seems to me the key for both nonprofit and private market developers is the interim construction financing. That's very attractive rate. And the takeout mortgage, if it's nonprofit, I guess they qualify for 35-year amortization. And if they're not nonprofit, can they get up to 50%? Was that the 50 years rather?
If we're financing long-term, with a nonprofit, we can do up to 35-year amortization. If it's a for-profit entity, at this time, we can't provide that long-term financing assistance. So they would have to go find that through conventional lenders or elsewhere.
Yes, 25 years maybe. Well, that's great. And there's no capital grants, or ideally you want to be able to do these projects with no write down of the mortgage.
That's right. There's no capital grants available. So what we have here are opportunities with low cost land that should hopefully make a pretty big difference to the budget, as well as the financing and anything else that we can try to find savings on as a group that can try to help alleviate pressures on the budget as well.
Well, good to know. I never like to say my last question, but that's really to the city. I'm familiar with the site because I'm part of a development team that submitted to a previous RFP, or I think it was an EOI actually. And one of the problems with the site is not environmental, but it's geotechnical and slash structural, I guess, because of course that site is in what's called the Nanaimo Trench, and the whole of the trench was made developable by I think coal tailings were used to fill in what was a harbor, part of the Nanaimo harbor. So it seems to me that there, in spite of the fact that the leases for 60 years are free, there actually is a cost to make that site developable or built ready. And that is probably having to go down to bedrock, the floor of the harbor, and installing concrete footings and maybe I-bar up to the level of the basement, and then putting in a kind of suspended slab and filling it all up with structural engineered fill. That's going to be a large item, and I just wonder if the city, I think they had an environmental assessment done, but I'm just wondering if the city had done any geotechnical structural foundation work at all. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, I can address your comment, John, there. We had not pursued any specific because we, depending on what the proposal is, we do have some geotechnical work that had been prepared for the Marriott Hotel, the conference center, and surrounding areas. So we do have some information about that we could probably provide, but something specific for 6 Commercial, we had not done a specific geotechnical work on it because it depends on the development.
Yes, But I reflect that, you know, the old A&B Sound building across the street, across Commercial Street, it's been totally renovated, but you will notice they have not exceeded two stories frame building. And that's because I believe that there's not sufficient geotechnical support given the composition of the structural material under the foundations. So I was also wondering, Nancy, the Salvation Army recently redeveloped their original building. I remember I was the project manager for the addition, but I noticed that in the original one that Kinetic has replaced, they probably went right down to bedrock and you know, put in substantial structural supports before they poured the foundation of the basement there. And anyway, I was just that's a big challenge because I think the site is very attractive. We would like to do something different there, not just a standard 6-story residential building with commercial retail on the floor. We have some other ideas there in terms of hopefully enriching and enhancing the downtown heart of the city. But anyway, that's something I will have to talk to Lukowicz and Herald Engineering about, who are our partners in this. But I'm glad we've got BC Builds on site because, you know, PDF to do design development and due diligence work, and the low interim construction financing, and 35-year mortgage amortization, very helpful. So thanks for this partnership. We'll try and do our best to take advantage of it and produce a plan for something that will indeed enhance and enrich the flavor of the downtown. I'll be quiet now. You've given me a great chance to ask my questions. Now maybe others can jump in.
Thank you very much, John. Opening the floor up for anyone else, either can jump in and raise your questions verbally, or happy to also to put them in the chat. I'm happy to read them out as well.
I have one question for 474. Actually, a few questions, mostly for planning and engineering. So based off the site plan that's the city proposed in the property opportunity notice, so I guess there are 10 units in the floor plan. So if assuming we can do 3-story building, so we're gonna have 30 units. So based off the parking bylaw, we need to provide at least 45 parking spots. So we need to do 1 underground parking. Just city can just correct me if I'm wrong. So for that purpose, we need to go we should do 1 underground. So, and then we don't know what is the FCL, because city says there should be an FCL for this site. So if you can clarify what would be the FCL and whether we can do any mechanical room or electrical room in the underground or not, or any sort of amenities, that would be great. Also, there is a FSR bonus that explains for R15, but the wording for that to me is a bit ambiguous. It mentioned that it's around 0.25 multiply percentage of the total parking, but you know the wording can be a bit more spelled out. That would be great for me as well. And then for that riparian area, do we need to hire a biologist to go to get into it and just dig into the type of the riparian area, or anything would be done on your end? And then these are all questions for 474 for me. Thank you.
Nancy, did you want to speak to the riparian?
We do
Question,
have
what's been done?
we do have environmental and riparian work that has been done as part of a previous proposal that that we can share. Definitely provide that information to you. We may have to come back on some specific answers of your questions, which we'll be able to put into the inquiries part of the presentation. Lady, I don't know if you want to address anything right now specifically.
Yeah, for sure. I can just post my questions. Yeah, sure. BC bills.
I can speak to the question about the underground parking and the calculation of additional density, if you like. That would be so in our zoning bylaw, we do define or describe what underground parking is deemed to be in order to take advantage of that. So the additional floor area that can be added is 0.25 multiplied by the percentage of the parking spaces that are provided underground. And underground means no more than 0.8 meters above the finished grade.
So yeah, and then what exactly you're referring to? What percentage of the total? So 0.25. That how we can calculate this percentage? That's my question.
Yeah, if you had if you had 100 parking spaces, then you'd be multiplying, and 100 parking spaces were provided beneath the building, but most of them were underground. Most of them were not more than 0.8 meters above the finished grade. You would multiply 0.25 times the number of spaces that meet that definition. They're not more than 0.8 meters above the grade. The ones that are above finished grade, more than that, wouldn't be able to be included in that calculation.
So it's a number of the total parking, not percentage of the total. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Times the percentage. Sorry. So if there's the percentage of your total parking spaces that meet that definition, you multiply 0.25 times the percentage of the total parking spaces that are deemed to be underground. So you may not have 100% underground. You may only have 80% underground.
Oh, okay, I understand. So number of parking underground and to total number of parking. Okay, that would be a percentage. Okay. And there is another question for the setback. So based off the zoning bylaw, you add for R15, if I'm not mistaken. So the first floor should be 3 meter set. It should have 3 meter setback. I think from that's a front setback. But for the second floor and above, we should have additional for 1.5 meter. I mean, total 4.5 meter setback, right? So that, I guess, to my understanding, that makes the developer to do one concrete podium instead of wood frame because we cannot stack the walls. And then the next two levels should be wood frame. Or the city is willing to just give us some variance or to relax this, requirement, because that's going to affect our budget.
Of course, I won't speak to the material selection, but certainly in terms of the setbacks, as you've described, it's on the front only. The rear obviously can be treated differently, but the idea is to create a welcoming street interface. So, and maintaining that scale at the pedestrian scale. So there is the opportunity to have some offsetting of the building. It doesn't create a very tall street wall. We have some developments throughout downtown that have been built in recent years under this zone, and we can certainly, those are under construction or built now to look at. And some of them have included some variances, but the idea was to offer a bit in terms of, sorry, the idea was to maintain the character in the old city. And so having some detail and interesting character with that offset in the building is what the zone is trying to encourage.
Okay. And then another question for street lighting. So does the developer need to just do the new street lighting, or the current street lighting would be enough for this development? Because that's going to be costly for the project as well. This is a question for both projects.
So I'm not sure the question and not sure if I'm the best to answer it, but if street lighting would be required for these projects?
Yeah, if the current street lighting is sufficient from the city's perspective, I mean. So the engineering can just answer this question pretty much, the city's engineering. Or we need to just, renew the street lighting. These are all the street lighting. So because that carries a, substantial cost. So I just want to make sure that what is the city's position on this.
Yeah, I'm not sure this time myself. I would be able to speak to that. Jeremy, perhaps?
Sure, I can jump in and speak to that a little bit. You would have to review to confirm the works and services, the standards that would apply, and you'd have to have your engineer involved in confirming what upgrades were required to meet the standards.
So another question for the city. So I guess there should be some cost associated with the demolition of the old building in 6 Commercial Street. So will the city look to recover this cost through the developer, I mean, through BC bills and the budget, or no?
No, it's anticipated that the land is offered at no value and that the redevelopment costs would be, and how the property is redeveloped is a cost to the developer.
No, I'm talking about the past demolition. So there is no cost for the developer. Okay.
Oh, no, no, that's all been, the property as, the demolition part of it's been done, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the questions. Just drawing our attention to the chat. So there was a comment here from Mark in reference to a previous question that structural piles may resolve below grade foundation issues. I think that was in reference to the first round of questions that came. There's another question here from Pardeep about whether this is a TOA or frequent transit network area. I see that's been answered below, that neither property is in a TOA zone. Ryan, this one may be best for you. There's a question here from Jacob. If a phased approach would be considered acceptable within this RFP. Jacob, I don't know if you want to turn on your mic and maybe to clarify the question more. Or...
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks. Yeah, the question is revolving around a new development approach that we're taking for almost all of our projects. You may know Soundworks that we're nearing completion on adjacent to the site. It may not look like it today since it's going to be 2 stories as noted and number of food and beverage focused uses. But for us, the vacant parking area and the whole site really could be more dense. And not that density is always the answer, but yeah, we think of it as a proof of concept for more investment in the downtown. And my question, I guess, revolves around how much data there is to support the form and character of 5 or 6 stories. We built a 6-story mixed-use building in East Vancouver recently, and we've had some turnover. And I would say the propaganda, people being able to get discounts on rent and on homes for purchase is true. And there's a lot more product in the market available to consumers now than there has been over the last, call it 5 years. So I'm sure, given the site dimensions, 50 or so homes could be reasonable for Nanaimo to inject into the housing stock, but at the same time, a developer who's putting in some investment, whether or not that requires serious remediation and structural work, I think would want certainty to know that they're going to have occupancy on day one and for 60 years, let's say. And there's a concept in Vancouver done by a developer you may know, Marcon, called the Outpost. And I think the format that they've transformed a show home into more of a living lab, call it, where they're testing the demand for whether or not the future residents would want to see a coffee shop or a microbrewery or a clothing store at the base of their building has been really elegant and no doubt help them in their sales funnel for finding future home buyers as well for these mixed use projects. And so there's a lot of, I think, interesting characters for us to draw some inspiration from. And there's something about this site that I was curious if you could do a phase one cheap and cheerful, call it meanwhile activation on the site where you have some mixed use elements, but less investment, and maybe at that same time use it as a way to prefab some sort of modular structure off-site while you're drumming up demand and proving it. And it may happen, in the first year that you have this outpost on the site, and you can tear it down and replace it with the future project, or it may take the first 5 years to see that there's really demand for that much. You might learn that there's more demand for office upstairs or something that was unexpected. So just wondering if an approach like that for fulfillment would be acceptable, or that would get us thrown out of the running.
I think
Thanks.
those are great concepts that you brought up, and there's no set structure for how we're looking to receive proposals. So if you want to propose a phased approach or some kind of additional infill in the future, I think we're pretty open to receiving what those ideas are to see what creative solutions can be put forward in these sites.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, the question is really, I guess, revolving around how to propose your outcomes in a way that BC Build says, they get it, they understand what we have to achieve. It's not just always financial metrics. It's but bigger is not always better. So that helps our team move forward.
Thank you, Jacob. We have another question here from Zach around the financing only. If applying for financing outside of the HCO, is BC Build still utilizing the SCAME scoring matrix out of 100? Is there a target score that BC Build would like to see to consider or approve interim construction financing?
In terms of scoring, we're just looking to see what comes through, and we're going to be evaluating these proposals with the City of Nanaimo to see that there's an appropriate response to what they're looking for. The scoring doesn't necessarily mean that financing is going to be guaranteed. It's all dependent on what's feasible.
Just a quick question for 6 Commercial Street. So 4.5 meter setback is from Terminal Avenue, that's right? Just check with the city. Because this is an irregular site, so I'm wondering, because the other setback is supposed to be 0, so the 4.5 would be for Terminal Avenue.
I think we determined that this is what we call a through lot. It's 4.5 meters from the front, and it'd be 0 from a side or flanking. Yeah, sorry, Nancy, I don't know if you can help me out here. Maybe don't want to put you on the spot, but
well, I think when we looked at different proposals, isn't it built to, like you said, to the 0 lot line on the terminal? There is some road design work that has been done for. Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
I could jump in. 4.5 meters. It's a numbered highway. So there's a Ministry of Transportation setback of 4.5 meters.
Is that from the property line, Jeremy?
Yes.
It's quite a setback.
I believe that can be relaxed through application to the ministry, and Lane, you could speak better to the zoning bylaw setback.
Yeah.
But there is a 4.5 meter setback that the Ministry of Transportation applies to numbered highways.
highways, yeah.
That's my understanding. We can confirm that and post it in the answers.
I'm just thinking that if we had the entrance to the housing and the retail commercial along Commercial Street with no entries along Terminal, they might agree to a relaxation of the setback, but it's just a thought.
Yeah, and in other proposals, John, that we've sort of reviewed in the past, there wouldn't be any access to the site. It's not anticipated that the access would be, well, it would have the transit exchange is going to redevelop, and that whole area with the transit exchange and China Steps and that loading bay that comes down. We visualize sort of the site functioning in the same way as it did when the Gene Burns was there. You would have that loading access that comes down that area, because that's still going to be maintained because there's buildings next. There's buildings that are going to need that access through there. And we're also going to have Commercial Street, right, as that won't be the access to the like parking, vehicle access, but there'll be access for parking along Commercial Street. But Terminal Avenue, like a loading area, will come down off of that area as well there. So there is some design work that has been, it's in the works right now, and also Commercial Street road design, because we've done up to 50% for the road design on Commercial Street because of the complete, the Commercial Street revitalization. So there is some design work that has been done with that we can share as well, if a proponent wants to have that specific information.
Thanks, Nancy. That's very useful.
We are all caught up with questions in the chat. If anybody has,
There you are. Yeah.
Something just came in here from Daniel. This is for Ryan. You mentioned DCR of 1.1 for residential. What are the LTC or LTV ratios or ranges that need to be met for construction financing?
So the most important criteria for us is to have that underwriting meet that 1.1 DCR for residential, 1.3 for commercial. There's no hard metric for LTV or LTCs. It's just whatever can actually debt service. So we see a lot of projects come in between 60, 90% LTCs, all dependent on the rents, the costs, and how it all plays out. But there's no cutoff to say that something needs to be below 85% or otherwise.
Thanks, Ryan.
Excuse me, quick clarification. I guess for commercial, you're seeking for 1.4, not 1.3, right? Based off the property opportunity notice. And this is based off ACLP program as well. But we can double check the property opportunity notice, I guess.
Yeah, we'll confirm that and put that in the addendum to make sure that the proper numbers are in place.
Okay, and just quick question for financing. So the primary, the primary pro forma that we should show that's supposed to pencil out is based off the BC bills, right? So all the units at market rent for 35 years AM, right? But in addition to that, we can pencil out the pro forma for ACLP program, but 30% of the units at 20% below market, but for 50 years AM. That's correct? So we can show both of them in our pro forma, in our proposal, right?
Yes, that's right. We would evaluate both scenarios in that case.
Okay.
Can you propose 2 or 3 options in your proposal, or should you submit 3 separate proposals? That's interesting.
If it comes down to just the financing part, I think we can consider that one proposal. And in there would be maybe multiple scenarios, whether it's financing through BC Builds or financing through CMHC, through ACLP, MLI, or any other program. But the base underwriting would still check to see if there's feasibility through the BC Builds 35-year AM scenario in the event that the other financing alternatives don't come into play, because those may not be guaranteed by the time you want to start the project.
Yes, I was just wondering, Build Canada Homes is proposing that they'd provide capital grants to enhance affordability, to deepen affordability. But whether or not we got that probably, would be one of the options we could look at.
Yes, that's right. So we would look at it, but we wouldn't necessarily be able to bank on that, because that would still be an application through their program. And unless there's an approval in place, we don't know for sure if those grants can apply and if those budgets would be realistic or not.
Yes, I advocate a one-stop shop for federal and provincial programs, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, better luck next time.
There's a parking question for the city in the chat here. Zero parking for Commercial Street project. Does the city nonetheless expect some parking provision for a mixed-use building, particularly for the ground floor commercial tenants?
Thanks for the question. To the parking, we wouldn't require the commercial parking. There would be seeking of, I believe, the bike parking, and we're in the midst of updating our off-street parking regulations bylaw to give that clarity. And also wanting to ensure that the building has viable loading space, although some of that is still would have to occur through the technical review to find what could be provided, as Nancy showed in an adjacent to the site. So no vehicle parking space for the commercial part of it, but understanding if there's a mixed use development residential, we would still be looking for bike parking that supports our active transportation, and I believe the accessible parking.
Thank you, and thank you for confirming the setbacks for 6 Commercial Street as well. Any other questions while you have members from both the City of Nanaimo and BC Build, BC Housing here?
I have one quick question, if there's still time, just around the building height. I think meeting the full development potential and that's allowed under or with the FAR would be a challenge based on the geometry of the site. And so is there any mechanism that would allow for a height, an additional height allowance, or would it be capped at the 6 stories basically?
So generally, our city plan gives us the policy guidance in our primary urban center. We are envisioning, as noted, a 6-story building here, although certainly through the design review process, we could have a better understanding of what's proposed and whether it's a portion of the building to be higher or the whole thing. We'd want to better understand how that suits the site, but potentially height variance could be entertained. We just want to understand the scale of that height variance.
Excellent. Thanks for your answer.
Just final question. Is the EV requirement for all parkings here in Nanaimo or like other municipalities?
The electric vehicle?
Yeah.
parking requirements.
Yeah.
So we do require for a certain percentage, depending on whether it's for the commercial or multifamily use, and only a portion needs to have access to shared vehicle, shared electrical EV facilities, and others need to have the ability in future to have a charger installed. So, the wiring for that, or the conduit
Okay.
for it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So our parking bylaw outlines those facilities.
Yeah. Okay.
And just to clarify for everyone, we did allot an extra 30 minutes in this. I know usually our info sessions are an hour long. Because this is looking at 2 housing development opportunities, there is more time if folks have more questions. We have another question here in the chat. Where are we able to access the environmental reports from the adjacent property or projects?
Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute. We would have to look to make sure, like, for some private developments, we don't have that available, but we have some information available from when the conference center was built and the Marriott Hotel properties that the city have been involved in. We'd be able to share, and the environmental report for 474 Pine Street, we have that available as well, which we can put in the information.
And Ryan, there's a BC Builds question in the chat here from Krishna. Will BC Builds guarantee the loan for a private operator applying for an ACLP/BCB loan?
BC Builds can indemnify loans for nonprofit partners and only under certain circumstances. So we'd have to be able to see what the criteria is and what CMHC is requesting indemnity for. We don't provide indemnity for for-profit developers.
Nancy, I was thinking, I thought I saw a link to the environmental report for 6 Commercial Street on the somewhere on the proposal.
Yeah, I think they were asking more about additional reports, but definitely in the property opportunity notice for 6 Commercial, there was a summary that was done of the phase 1 and phase 2 environmental reports that were done with those. But also for 474 Pine Street, I can share the reports for those as well. They weren't included specifically in that property opportunity notice for that property. I think the question again was just from adjacent properties, which we hadn't included for this site, but we can see if we can find from additional information from those ones that only the city had been involved in.
Interesting. I remember a site in Vancouver I was working on where there had been an old gas station on the other side of the street. And the petroleum oil and gas had actually migrated under the street and were affecting the site I was working on. Interesting. Always something you got to watch out for.
Another BC Builds question here in the chat from Zach. Are draws on construction finance to be controlled by a quantity surveyor or other industry professional on LTC basis? Would a budget review be required on a case-by-case basis, or is there guidelines around this?
Yes. So for all BC Builds projects, quantity surveyor is required. And so we'll need a budget review before we final project approval a project. Sorry, that was a lot of the same words, but that's our final approval body within BC Builds. And throughout construction, draws are monitored with the quantity surveyor, where they're going to provide us loan monitoring reports on a monthly basis. And so those are all based off of cost and value in place.
One other question, Brian. I'm usually the project manager, development consultant on nonprofit projects. Do you require that, or should I just really let the development team handle it on their own?
In terms of the partnership structure of the developer and the operator, that's going to be up to the proponents to decide how that teamwork is going to happen. So either you can be a part of the operating team, or you can find another partner to take on, find a property management company. It's, I guess, a creative flow for you to decide what you want to propose for this project in particular.
Okay, thanks.
Excuse me, as a final question for environmental for 6 commercial. So I went through the report. So it seems that we need to do DSI, and then we should get COC from ENV. But I guess at the end of the report that they suggest that we can just go and apply for AIP, approval in principle, and then we can just defer that COC to the occupancy permit. So I just want to make sure the city is agreeable with this statement, but that's going to just help us a lot in terms of timeline.
Lainey, I don't know if you want to touch first.
I'm just thinking, I'm thinking because I'm trying to remember what we have in terms of in terms of site remediation understanding or approvals from the ministry. Normally to approve a development permit, for example, we would need a release if there's been a history of Schedule 2 activities. So yeah, we probably just need to understand where we're at with that.
So, okay, so this is acceptable by the city. So because typically municipalities do not just release the building permit until we just address the environmental issues. But in this case, they suggest that if we get this AIP, approval in principle, then we can push the COC up to occupancy permit. This is based off your report. So that was my question, to just make sure that the city's position is same as the report.
Yeah, Jeremy, feel free to add in. I mean, for the purpose of the development permit, we would just need a release to proceed with that and then take in the submission of the building permit. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Jeremy.
Yeah, we'd look to, obviously it would be up to the contaminated sites branch to issue appropriate releases, but we have an obligation to provide them with documentation when there's been Schedule 2 activities, and so development permit and building permit would both require submission of documentation to the ministry, to the contaminated sites branch, and then we would follow they're the authority. We would follow their directive as far as what's required prior to moving on to the next stage of approval.
If the city can just give us some more clarification, because that's going to affect a lot on timeline of the project. Because if you are required to just get COC before building permit, that makes even the project not feasible. That takes a lot of time to get COC from EMV. But in case of approval in principle, that's same as suggested by the report, that is doable. I mean, that makes a lot of sense in the project. So we can push both together.
Yes, while there's a pause in the questions, I was just thinking, I don't think contamination is the big issue. I think the big issue is geotechnical and structural foundation issues. And I believe that that'll require all of the contaminated material to be removed from the site anyway, so that the foundations, the concrete foundations for the structural steel pilings can be put in place, and then the void filled with clean structural and engineering fill. Anyway, that's my take on it, and I'll have to consult with the experts.
We are winding down on our time now. If there's no more questions, maybe we can, and we do have a few more minutes if anything comes up. But in the meantime, we just want to point out next steps. This recording will be saved and then posted up to the project web pages on the BC Builds Housing Development Opportunity site. It'll probably be up sometime next week, so you can use it as a resource when you're developing your proposals. There is also, if more questions come up after today, you can send in your questions. Just want to confirm, Emma Jane, is the info at BC Builds going to be yes, thank you.
Just posted it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So in the chat there, you can see, send any inquiries to info@bcbuildshomes.ca. March 10th is the inquiry deadline. So that everybody has access to the same information, we'll be posting all of the questions we receive as well as the formal answers on March 17th as an addenda to the property opportunity notice. And we will send out a notice to everybody who registered for this meeting to notify them when that is up.
Well, I'm just going to say thank you, everyone, for your input to this. It's really helped me a lot. And you know what the Three Musketeers said, one for all for one, every man for himself.
Thank you so much, John. I echo what you say. I really appreciate everyone taking the time today to come and listen and be part of a conversation. We're really hopeful that something is going to happen with this properties and that this partnership with BC Builds will see something happen. And thank you very much, everyone, for your time.